Well, howdy, folks. It is the big dance, the 2025 head of the Schoolgirls Regatta. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. We'll witness a regatta of unparalleled skill, fierce competition, determination, and the occasional crab that is bound to haunt someone's sporting career forever. Now, to the parents watching, congratulations. You've made it through another season of pre-dawn wake-ups, dragging the teenager out of bed, the smell of wet zooties hanging up in the bathroom, and enduring relentless, endless conversations on the dinner table about rowing and how wrong the coaches have it. And, of course, special shout-out to the coxswains, who right now are already regretting their life decisions. So let's get cracking. As usual, I am joined by our illustrious panel of Joe Heyman-McNally and Alan Crute. Hello, Joe. Hello, Alan. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Guy.
Aren't we excited, Alan?
I'm absolutely excited. In fact, I found my hat. And I
there we go.
Like a National Party politician, I might just take on Couillon.
Well, it could do with some help at the moment. But anyway, let's not get into politics, shall we? Now, I'll tell you why I'm exceptionally excited too. It's the underdressed fella sitting at the bottom of the screen there. For those that don't know the face nor the name, they will certainly know the voice. Richard Dorstein, the rowing commentator extraordinaire. Richard, we are absolutely thrilled, honoured and privileged to have you with us this evening. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, Guy. And I didn't get the memo on the dress code, but otherwise, hearing voice, if nothing else.
Well, it's all right. We didn't want to put pressure on. You know, you may not own a suit, and we just don't, we know what it's like in the rowing community. Bucks are a bit tight.
Certainly can't tie a tie, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Well, last year I did put on the old tux and didn't give anyone the dress code, and I looked a bit foolish. So I thought Alan put pressure on, Joe put pressure on. So we created a bit of a dress code, but we thought we'll just leave the important people. They can come as they feel so that they're comfortable, most importantly. Now, I want to follow a little bit of structure tonight. We've got Rob Manning jumping in very shortly as well, who will give us a bit of a chat. So I want to go through a few things. We've got an awful lot to cover. For the parents tuning in, we do want to get through all of the boat classes, all of the events, and Alan, of course, is going to give us his tips. We know his success rate in the past has been exceptional. This year, he's a little bit nervous about how his success will go. But look, before we move into that, I want to start off with a little bit of chatting about some sort of housework, if you like. Joe, tell me, as president of the Friends of Fintona fraternity, where does things fit for those parents who are sort of on the sidelines, who might be interested in getting involved in their school parents' committees? Where does the committee sit? What do they do? What is their position in the whole space, etc.?
Yeah, well, for Finsto, I'm not exactly the president. I think that we've got a small team, so we're all in it together. But with Finsto, because
don't take away a title when you're given it. Just run with it. And just, don't ruin a good story with facts. I never have, so don't you start.
But we are, we are a small rowing program, so parent involvement is like pivotal for the program to continue. So each season we always put out to the new parents and who would like to be part of our Friends of Rowing committee, which is mainly focusing around fundraising, encouraging other parents to come to regattas. We're advocates for our girls. We help organise nutrition speeches. We just work cohesively with the staff, and it's a big thing. You don't realise how big it is, but there's a lot of support.
It is a big thing, isn't it? Because it's also, I think, really important to keep parents completely engaged in rowing. It's a very easy one, and for parents listening, it is a very easy one for parents to say, why am I doing this? Why do I get up early in the morning? My kid's being distracted. They're not studying. They're focusing on rowing and nothing else matters. That conversation, we could go on all night, so I'm not going to start on that one now. But it is important to keep parents engaged. And I think that's one of the primary roles, isn't it, really, of the parents' committees?
Yeah, the keeping parents engaged and just sort of making sure that the girls are looked after as well with food, that we're supporting our coaches and our whole squad. So,
Yeah, look, absolutely. And it's imperative too, isn't it? Especially for the 3 days coming up this weekend.
Correct.
It's a big one. And I imagine you've done a lot of groundwork between now. Sorry, Alan?
It's a hot 3 days.
A hot 3 days. Hot in many ways. Hot on the riverbank, hot on the water. Absolutely. No, fantastic. Well, look, because we got a lot to get through, let's roll on to you, Alan, if we may, and give us a bit of an intro on the juniors. I don't know if you've got an idea on how you wanted to run through all of this, because I didn't give you a heads up, did I? As usual, I've just rolled into it.
Well, I'm sure you're going to ask me some difficult questions. So.
Well, we're gonna. Well, I don't know if we can ask you difficult questions, because unlike the bloke who's under you on the screen, he probably knows nearly as much as you do as far as the research. We'll come back to that with him later. But Alan, do you want to sort of give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going to be happening with the
juniors?
The juniors.
Well, fascinating event. They've actually created a Division 10. So we now have Event 1 and Event 1A, I noticed today. So the thing gets bigger down at the top.
Is that a division split?
Well, they've named one Division 10 and one Division 9. But what it means is there's a very broad base at the bottom of the pyramid.
Right.
So anyway, why don't we start with single sculls, where you might remember that lass from Corio Bay / Cardinia Quirk, who I think her name was Scarlet, but anyway, she was by far the most outstanding single sculler in that fleet, the single scull fleet, but she's chosen to row doubles, as has the Corio lass, who temporarily came down and won the single scull event at, I think it was the Ngambie. Was it the Ngambie Regatta? Whatever the previous, I think it was Junior State. It was Junior States. That's right. Yes, Junior States. So now you have a really even fleet, where you've got Doig from Albert Park College. Now she's run second at Junior States. You've got a lass called Elizabeth Drew Finn, who rows for Essendon. Now, she never appears at school regattas, but I had a look at her form. She's in it. There's a lass called Kate Berryman, who's just appeared. She looks quite handy as well. She's from Geelong College. There's Georgie Gibbs from Coral, who's good. Katie Micken, who's been there from the start from Lowther Hall, and so on. So I think there's about 4 or 5 that are all very even. So that'll be a good race. I don't think that any of those lasses are absolutely outstanding, but does it matter?
Outstanding to win, you mean? They're all outstanding,
aren't you?
You know my view on the single scullers, and especially the juniors, the courage of those guys. My hat off to all of those. Any of the single scullers, you're the bravest lot out there.
Well, you might notice, Guy, that most of the small boat fleets have increased this year, and most of the 4-seater fleets have decreased.
Yeah.
And the 4-seater fleets have mainly decreased because there's no Shelford, no Cardinia, and no Haileybury. However, there's a very slight move towards small boats, which is most welcome.
Yep. Excellent.
Double sculls. This is the absolute ripper. Here, you actually do have Quirk and her mate from Cardinia, Walsh, who are exceptionally quick. Gold at Junior States in 4:10. The Coral Aces in Milton and Agars did a 4:16 at the not Sacred Heart Regatta, the St Catherine's Regatta. Didn't row States because, as you might recall, one of them was off doing other things.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Genazzano pair there. So I think that's going to be a very good race, particularly between those two. So if you're going to pick on me later and ask me to choose, I'd be going for the Cardinia / Corio Bay girls there.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do this year, Alan. I'm going to have trust in you to mark down who your favourites are. So
you're going to make me
to get your percentage. Because I'm going to run out of paper because I'm so unprepared or ill-prepared, whatever the word is.
I'm too prepared.
I did overcome my biggest fear. I had, that dream you have when you wake up 30 years after the event thinking that you've missed your exam. I had that dream last night many times that it was 8:30 and I haven't even started this thing. That's how, isn't that ridiculous? But anyway.
Okay. In the first event, I'll go for Doig. I'll write that down. I don't really have a favourite there, but that's as good as any. And in the second one, I'm going to go for those Corio Bay / Cardinia girls.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just writing that down. Okay. So now we get to the Blue Ribbon event, the quads, Division 1. Well, I've written in my notes that the big three select themselves. The big three are in all 8 of those quad divisions. That's Loreto, Toorak, MLC, and MGGS. Pretty easy for you, Richard.
Very helpful, thank you. Yeah.
It became a bit difficult after that between Ballarat Grammar, Clarendon, Furbank, Geelong College, Damascus, who did very well. You might remember Richard at the head of the lake in those junior events.
Yeah.
Wesley and Strathcona. In the end, I went for the 3 big guns. If you look at the times, LT have rode on average at 3:47, MGGS at 3:54, and MLC at 3:55. So you'd say LT there, but then the next one out is, Clarendon at a 4:01 and GC at a 3:59. So those big 3, I mean, if you were having a go first, second, and third, that's it. I mean, it's going to get fairly boring. I think the quad races are going to be far less interesting than the small boat races and the 8 races, frankly.
And it was similar last year too, Alan, wasn't it? With the Loreto crews especially, and I think they almost swept the Year 9 events last year. So
they did. I don't think that'll happen this year, Richard. No. They'll be close. In Division 2, again, I've said they've basically selected themselves. You've got MGGS rowing an average of, how about this, 3:55, LT 3:56, and MLC 3:57. So what do you do? LT were actually a lot faster at junior states than in the final, in the heat. So you'd have to. I'm kind of thinking LT might be there in that one. Furbank are averaging a 4:03, LB a 4:04, and Strathcona a 4:04. Look, the big 3 are probably going to dominate there again, I would have thought. And that's just a toss-up. You will notice as we go through these things that MGGS and MLC are much, much closer than last year. And some of these races, they are favourites. Now, Division 3. This is when we had that awful split thing over 900 metres, and I had to adjust all these things. I've got MGGS at a 4:01, MLC at a 4:01, and LT at a 3:59. The rest of them are 10 seconds behind that. Same old story. You go for LT only because they're getting curious at these events. But, I mean, again, if MGGS or MLC won that, you wouldn't be the least bit surprised. There's not much to add there. And finally, in Division 4, I mean, I could have picked MGGS or MLC. I'm just picking the lowest time because it's just logical. And here,
isn't that the cop out though, Alan? Your skill set, you should be above just picking a number.
Well, no, because I actually look at who wins what and what have you. So I still think they're going to win a lot of these things. But I must admit, last year where you could go LT, you can't do it quite this year. And in JQ4, the 4th division, they are further in front. Average time, 4 minutes, MGGS 4:07, MLC 4:11. So I guess, LT again. The major thing there would be a highlight if any other school won a medal in those 4 events. That would be a highlight.
Would that be a 10-cent bet?
Furbank is sort of on the cusp. They're always coming 4th or 5th. There's a few other schools around. The Ballarat schools a little bit. But the big 3 could win all of those medals in those 4 events.
And
I
anyone
say
outside of that would be a
unfortunately.
surprise. Is that what we're saying, Alan? Anything outside of that would be a surprise?
If Furbank or any of the other schools sneak in there for
Yep.
second or third,
Yep.
that would be wonderful.
Yep.
No offence
Excellent.
to the parents of the three big schools, but it would
Brilliant.
make life a lot more
Good
interesting.
summary. Good summary. Now, Rob Manning's managed to, get off the whatever he was doing and joined us. Rob, thank you for joining us. Great to have you with us.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, Rob.
What we're going to do, Rob, we're going to have a chat to you shortly after we get through a few bits and pieces of other things that we're battling through here. But great to have you with us. So just endure what we're going through, and we'll have a chat very soon. Hey, Joe, just before we do move on, just show us that hat of yours a little bit there, will you? The old, yeah. Well, so I'll have to show this too. Of course, I've gone a bit of branding.
Dear.
There we go, Alan. How's that? Bit of branding.
When did you guys win your last gold medal?
Well, there was a win this season. Well, there was a medal this season, wasn't there, Joe?
Yes. Yep.
And who was that? And what was that?
That was a junior double scull. Chloe McNally.
Yeah, it happened to include your daughter. Gee, you're a bit slow on the update. Yeah, I was giving you the foot up. I was giving you the.
You also won a senior quad medal, which was actually probably just as important the other day at senior
I don't think that was. I think that was Furbank.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. You were the second quad school home, but you didn't win a medal. That's right. Yeah.
We won a silver in the inter at head of schoolgirls last year, double skull. So,
yes.
Sorry, I led you astray there. It's my fault.
Yeah, yep. Well, that's all right. Never mind. Now, as I said, very excited to have with us now is, of course, Richard Dorstein, the extraordinaire, commentator extraordinaire. We've all heard his dulcet tones over the microphone. Tell me, Richard, give us a little bit of a brief rundown on your rowing background.
Well, my rowing in the boat background was quite brief. I rowed at school, at a school up in Brisbane for the 4 years of that, and realised I didn't have a great deal of talent in the boat. So I turned to coaching after that and spent many years coaching at my school, Churchy, and a couple of the girls' schools in Brisbane as well.
And sorry, Richard, are you implying those that can't row should coach? Is that what you're implying? Is that how it works, Rob?
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt.
It certainly worked for me, but no, I much enjoyed telling others how to do it rather than doing it myself. I realised that quite early in my school rowing career, such as it was. I've coached for in Brisbane for I think 15 or 16 years or so it was after finishing school, and moved to Melbourne in 2014. So I don't quite know when the commentary actually began. It was at Lake Wivenhoe. Somewhere back about the year 2000, I suppose. And like most things in rowing, there was no one else to do that job. So I sort of started doing it for a few races, and it's kind of gone from there. And now I don't really sort of do much coaching at all anymore, and spend most of my time at regattas sitting in the air-conditioned comfort of the finish tower, being well fed and looked after, and talking about the races coming down. So it's worked out all right.
Do you have a special call to the race committee, the race committee, for argument's sake? If I recall, Roger Wilson, whenever he mentioned the sponsor of whatever food truck it was, that was an indication to the race committee to look quick, needs another hot dog.
Look, I must say, Roger still has them remarkably well trained, and it is amazing how often you talk up the food and drink offerings and things will magically appear. So I have a lot to thank Roger for, including that part of how the day works. Indeed.
Yeah, well, he's certainly very good on the microphone as well as on the tooth. That's for sure. Always
what's your
entertaining.
favourite course? Oh, sorry, Guy. What's your favourite course to commentate on, Richard?
They've all got their sort of peculiarities and I guess unique features. It's probably a boring answer, but I suspect it's Penrith, mainly because everything is very well set up there at Cirque with the Olympic level finish tower. They've got cameras permanently built on the side of the course, so you've usually got vision of what's happening. And it's just a course that works quite well. And I've been lucky enough to do the nationals there for several years now as well. But I enjoy all the courses around Victoria too. I think Ballarat has its unique charms when the wind's not blowing, but I do enjoy regattas there, and I've spent a lot of time at Ngambie in the past few weeks as well, and it's got some good features. I think Geelong, the course at Geelong is unique, and in the context of this regatta, especially in terms of the head of the Schoolgirls, there is something amphitheatre like about the course being just 4 lanes with crowds down both sides and a lot of noise. So there's a packed Geelong, as it will be this weekend, is certainly up there. And the good thing there is, as a commentator, you're very close. I was thinking about this afternoon. You're very close to the crowd. You can look out the window and you can see them, and they can see you, and you actually know they're listening to you, especially in the case of like a close finish. So if we get a photo finish or something that's a bit too close to call on the line, and luckily up there the photo finish operator Noel, who's a genius, is right behind me and has the finish up in a matter of seconds, so you can quite quickly work out who's won. But you look out the window and people are staring up at you, waiting to
waiting for the announcement.
So at least it's usually you're a bit in isolation on your own, but there you really feel like you're a part of the event. So look, a long and complicated answer, and I would give a plug too for Lake Barrington, because we're going there for Nationals in a couple of weeks' time, what promises to be a huge regatta based on the entries that closed yesterday. That's a fantastic course to be at and to commentate from, because you're just surrounded by the trees and the mountain, looking straight down the course from quite high up a couple of ladders to get to the commentary box at Lake Barrington.
The scenery's spectacular down there.
Scenery's fantastic.
Absolutely spectacular. I did see record entries too, wasn't it, for the
by a substantial margin. Last year's was the record in Sydney, which was unsurprising given a couple of COVID years and numbers are back up. But this year they've gone up again at a much harder to get to location. But it's fantastic to see. There'll be some big days.
Where does everyone stay down there? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, well, all over the place. We're in Sheffield, but others are in Devonport, Launceston, I think, which is about 90 minutes from the course. So it's a fair way. But this course, don't forget, hosted the World Championships back in 1990. So it has pedigree. But yes, it is. It's not as easy as rocking up to Panthers in Penrith and just setting up shop in the hotel there for a week and driving down the road to get to the course. There's a bit more to it, but it's fantastic to see the numbers coming. But that's a story for another episode. I'm sure we haven't got to the Nationals yet.
No. Now, very quickly, Richard, I do have to ask this, because you hear the commentary all the time, and they're sitting there, and it might be a 2K race, and it's 500 in, and the commentators pulled the old so-and-so's up by 3/4 of the length, and I'm looking and going, I don't know where they're getting that from. Are they looking at the same race? And then and they've lifted their rating to 38, and I'm like, are they watching the same lane? Where do these calls? I'm not saying you, not at all.
Okay.
But it sounded like I was. I wasn't.
That's all right. No.
Obviously you try your best to be accurate, but it's near impossible, isn't it, when you're that far away to call who's where? Do you just sort of go, oh, well, it must be Scotch, they're bound to be in front, or it must be MLC, or do you just pick the biggest chance? And
to an extent. Look, I don't want to give away all the
trade secrets
of it, but I have learned along the way that if you say something like you believe in it, then people tend to believe you. So, and generally speaking, at most courses, if you say something's happening 1,000 meters away, no one can disprove you anyway. So you get away with it. But
the old triple B, Richard, the old triple B philosophy at work for all coxswains. I won't share what triple B means for the kiddies watching, but those who will know. The rating call, though.
The rating
call.
If I call a rating out, it's because I've taken it myself on the rating watch, or someone occasionally, big regards, you'll have someone next to you who'll be giving advice and calling out ratings and things like that. So that a rating call would be accurate usually if I was doing it. Others may not have the same theory. But also,
I've certainly heard loose calls. But so you do have a rating watch. That's sort of my.
Oh yeah, I do. I know how to use. As a coach for a long time, so I know how to use a rating watch still. But like at States 2 weeks ago, we had a drone for the first day too. So we had some really good vision down the course. So what you were seeing on the live stream, I was able to see as well. So you actually have a better. That's why I say a course like Sydney, which has the cameras set up every 500 meters, is fantastic, because you actually do. You can see what's happening without having to, approximate quite as much as you do in some places. But say it like you believe it, and often it works.
Well, there you go.
And Richard,
Yep. And as I said, coxswains take that on board because say it like I believe it, and the rowers will listen. I don't say that jokingly. I say that factually. Have conviction in your message.
And Richard, do you have any favourite races that you're particularly fond of? You call, or you've sort of got back and listened to it, or?
Look, I do listen back. I do love live streaming because it does give you the chance to go back and see what you've done, what you've done well and what you haven't. I used to not like the sound of my own voice on replay, but you get used to it eventually. But yeah, the live streaming regattas gives you the chance just to watch back and see, especially how your voice matches with the vision, because that's actually important now too. It's different to just when I started doing this, you're just calling out the course for those who were there. And it's done and forgotten and lost in the sands of time. But now it's there for posterity. So you want to try and match up what you're saying to what's happening. I've called a few great races at the Nationals, especially the one that probably sticks in mind the most was the semi-final of the Schoolgirls 8 at Perth 2 years ago when the two St Catharines schools were racing each other. So St Catharines Melbourne and St Catharines Sydney. And I think I managed to say something like at the end, I don't know who's going to win, but it's definitely going to be St Catharines. And I was right. So that was close, fast races, eights races especially because they're quick. We had some great eights races at Nagambie 2 weeks ago. Last weekend with the 8 lanes. I think I said it a few times that 8 eights coming down the 2,000 metre course is a fantastic sight. So yeah, look, there's been lots of good ones, but it's hard to beat a close finish, especially when you've got some eights charging at each other late in the race. And that's exciting for the crowd. So you just it's exciting to describe as well.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, Richard, were you? I'm not sure. Were you the commentator up at Rutherglen Regatta this year?
No, I've never had the pleasure of the Rutherglen Regatta, but I hear good things about it, so I'll have to.
Well, that's all right because there was the commentator on the day, and I was wondering if it was you because based on what you just said about St Catharines versus St Catharines, there was a race that was all mercantile single sculls, and the commentator thought he was very funny for about 3 minutes, mercantile this and mercantile that, and was the whole thing. They're like, all right, the joke's worn off. We're 200 metres in, and it just kept going. And it went so well to the point where it actually got funny again. Like, okay, this is not the team, man. I think you did a good job.
You got to throw some entertainment in if you can, but it helps to be accurate as well, I suppose, in what you're saying.
Are you ready for a bit of coral with a C and coral with a K this week?
Yes, I think especially in that the double skull race, they'll probably be front and centre, won't they? So yeah, I do. It's always hard. You just can't like coral and coral. I know they're spelt differently, but they sound the same. So you've got to use a few extra words, and you'd like to get that out of which one's which, or coral with a club and coral with a school, or coral with a C, coral with a K. But yeah, it's. That adds to the entertainment factor, I suppose, when you have to.
And you were telling me the other day, some of your friends in New South Wales were getting very cocky about nationals. Is that still the case?
Yeah, look, they are. I did. I'm not sure if you mentioned this in Polite Game. I did appear on another podcast last week where we talked about the Victorian Championships, and there's a few, probably half our commentary team at Nationals does come from New South Wales, and they wear their sky blue proudly in the finish tower at all times. So, as the token Victorian, I have to provide a bit of interstate balance. But yeah, look, the New South Wales clubs, the Sydney Uni and Sydney Rowing Club especially, come to Nationals to win gold medals, and they've got their eyes on plenty more again this year, especially in some of the club events and the under 21 eights and the Open 8 even. So. But yeah, and the school eights especially as well, of course. So yeah, but you never know until you get there. They don't, apart from New South Wales Championships, our best crews and their best crews don't race much anymore. So we won't find out until it really happens. Yeah,
absolutely. Makes it exciting to a point too.
It does, yeah. And look, there's some good fields in some of those races, so they'll row heats and potentially semi-finals before the final. So we'll get an indication over the course of the week how it's all going. But that's the big event for those club crews, especially. That's what they train for, all season.
I'll tell you what, we could talk all night. I reckon Alan would have another 100 questions. I know I've got another 100 questions, but we can't because the listeners are going, we want to know about the schoolgirls, not about you.
Good idea. Good idea.
But it is fascinating. It's great having you along, Richard. Please hang around because I'm sure we'll ask you some more stuff at the end if we
With
get
pleasure.
time.
I'm writing down Alan's wisdom as he goes, so it'll save me having
you can look it up.
Regatta, so it's very good.
I did enjoy your call of the first 8 final head of Schoolgirls last year when you said Furbanks, da 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 da. They weren't supposed to be here. I thought that was. I very much enjoyed that.
He's probably
they did do well to
embarrassed.
make the final, and then they rode into third, didn't they? So yeah, it was
they
a
did.
good bronze medal for Furbank last year.
Pull out a medal. Nothing wrong with that. Now, just before we do move on, Joe, back to you for a moment. You've got a child in the household who's getting ready for the head of schoolgirls, second time round. Would that be right? Because your juniors last year, inters this year.
Yeah, that's right.
How's the vibe in the household?
Tired.
Tired.
Tired. We're all getting a little bit, the excitement butterflies for the weekend are definitely starting to kick in and getting organised for our last training session first thing tomorrow morning. So yeah, it's.
Well, I did notice today. We were on the water and there was pandemonium over at the MC. Oh God, you know the one down the river, MG something. Ellen knows. We looked across and what's going on here, and all the girls were jumping in the river. So I'm assuming that might have been their last training session. There was some sort of thing they did.
Well, they might have been doing a video. MGC rowing videos are usually spectacularly good. So maybe that was it.
That actually does make a bit of sense because we're sort of thinking that's an interesting thing to be doing, jumping into the Yarra, especially a couple of days out. You'd hate to get sick from it, wouldn't you?
Joe, the difference in this regatta I notice is that I'm very careful, particularly in the last day, who I talk to, because the parents are usually feeling sick with nerves. So I usually try to disappear somewhere and not bother too many people on the last day because it's.
They get a bit tense, don't they, Alan? I think you're quite right. There's a whole in some instances, years of culmination, especially for the seniors, and those up there with medal chances or whatever their own successes might be. Yeah, they'd be a bit tense. You probably don't want to go near them.
Well, I remember as a parent, I used to feel rotten when they were racing.
Oh dear, all part of the fun. Anyway,
there might be a southerly on Sunday, which means it might be rotten lane 1.
Let's not. The old lanes. It's one of those things, isn't it? Yeah, no, I don't. But it plagues us all. Yeah. What do you do? Now we've got to keep going because we'll be here all. Sorry, Joe, you were saying something.
I was just going to say, I noticed the Temp's going to get up there on Saturday. Will they make the call like they did at Big States? If they had to.
The heat. Well, I was actually contemplating this today because, like the head of the lake in Ballarat, which had some controversy this year, as Richard will remember, and the Henley, which had more controversy than it probably ever has, and this regatta, which has had lots of controversy over the years. Those are the 3 regattas which are basically run by the schools or, in the Henley's case, the Melbourne Amateur Rowing Association. So what you'd really want on Saturday is for no principal to be anywhere near a mobile phone. Because if anybody's going to stuff it up, it's going to be... I've actually looked at the schedule to see if they can feel around with it, but the juniors and the inters are doing repecharges in the morning when it won't be that hot. The problem is in things like quarterfinals and such, that's in the afternoon. On Friday, when it's only 31, the big girls are in the morning. They could swap that around, but then again, and the little girls are in the afternoon. But then again, you've organised your buses and the whole schools are organised with time. You wouldn't bother.
It's not a simple one to change around, is it, Alan?
No.
having been on the league for a number of years, it's just to make those changes. It's just such a challenge, and with so many people, it's also just managing all the boat flow as well. That was the hardest part about it.
Yeah, it's too hard. I looked at it today. That Saturday timetable's the most difficult one too, because there's lots of different things happening. Friday's easy; it's just heats, and Sunday's finals basically, with a bit of stuff happening in the morning. But Saturday's the difficult one.
Well,
anyway.
fingers crossed we don't get interruptions on such a big occasion, which we have had in the past, but hopefully we push through. Hey, speaking of pushing through, tell us about the Inters, Alan. Tell us about the Inters.
One of the best, I'm sure Joe will agree with this, one of the best events on the program is that Inter First 8 race event. There you've got Wesley. These are the heat times before they got heat policy out at states. 3:38, Genazzano 3:40, Geelong College 3:40, Kerry 3:41, and Geelong Grammar 3:42. Caulfield didn't race because it was too hot for them. And, of course, the regatta before they decided to go to Sydney for some silly reason. But that will be an absolute cracker.
Yeah.
You've got 3-4 seconds between 5 or 6 boats. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Richard, that'll test you out.
It's exciting.
Yeah. And
Don't
that shows
let
the excitement.
Lynn call that race.
that shows the excitement of the 4-lane course too, because even to make the A final for those crews is an achievement, and you have fantastic racing in the semis as well, just to get into the top 2 to make the 4-boat final.
Yeah.
So they'll be great races.
The 4-boat final thing is fantastic, isn't it? Because every single crew member of every single boat on the starting line can go in believing they're going to walk away with something.
Yeah. For the record, I'll go for Wesley there, but who knows? I mean, they could finish 6th. The Division 2 of the 8s is the one that has that the daughter in there of that. Kerry has the daughter in there of that famous radio person, and I reckon they're going to win.
Comments.
No, I reckon they're going to win. They rode a 3:39 in the heat at States, before the heat came in completely. The next best was 3:47. And I actually saw them at the I keep saying Sacred Heart. I saw them at the St. Catherine's Regatta, and they motored down like a major senior crew.
Yeah.
And I just think that they're good things in that. I mean, the others are all even, and anything can happen, but just a view. We've also got this strange Fours Division 1 event, which you might remember, Guy. It was all the Ballarat High crews last year. Remember that strange event where it was Ballarat Highs into first? Remember that?
Yep. Yes.
So they couldn't lose?
Right. Yes. Yep.
Well, this year it's actually more interesting because Loretto Ballarat are rowing their first quad in fours. Now, I think the reason for that would be that their first quad probably isn't going to a final, so they've decided to go up to come in here and clean up. You've also got a Geelong Grammar crew, a Damascus crew, but look, on class, Loretto Ballarat should win that.
Yep.
I did make a comment if they ever sweep before, but I'm sure being Ballarat they have. That event actually might expand because now we've got 2 divisions of 8s. The leftover girls will tend to go into that. No one has an even number of 2 8s, do they? So you'll find that they'll use that division, I think. Now, there's an event called Inter Double Sculls, Joe.
There is.
You're still awake there, Joe?
Joe's going to come to life now.
All right, Joe, tell me about it.
Like you said, Alan, I think it's Coral with a C and Coral with a K that are definitely going to be up there. There's potentially 1, 2. They've done really well at interstate champs.
And isn't there someone else there as well?
Yes, there's a Finchner crew in there as well.
And the St. Catherine's crew, remember?
Yeah, actually,
the race is the Morongo.
Yeah, they didn't race at the junior state. So yeah, they'll definitely be up there as well.
Yeah. And the lass that's in the stroke seat for that Cardinia boat is very good, but I don't know the lass. They haven't raced since the Sacred Heart Regatta, but I think that Bailey lass is very good. Anyway, so good luck to you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Here we are,
Exciting
bronze
stuff.
at Junior States. Oh, God. Okay, getting there. We're going really well here. Okay, well, we in Inter Single Sculls, we had Violet Whithouse coming in behind Sacred Heart's Rio Smith there for most of the season. But, of course, at that race the other day, Violet went nuts in the last 300 metres and beat Rio by about 30 seconds. So you wouldn't write off Rio by any means, but that's a race in two. I can't see any of those other girls getting close. There is a Kaphasis, not Constantina. There's Alexia Kaphasis, younger sister, rowing for MLC. And, there's been a couple of scratchings there as well, but that's a 1 in 2. And I don't know. Shall I go for Corowa or Sacred Heart, Guy?
Well, Alan, I'm not going to get involved because if you get your 1% out of what your score will be, you'll blame me then.
All right, no, that's all right. Okay, let's quickly go. Okay, now we're into the quads, just quickly. Well, lo and behold, who the top boats? You've got LT winning all the regattas they've been in. MLC have got 1 win, 2 seconds. MGC won a heat the other day. So I've got MGC in there with MGGS and LT and MLC. And I've got Ballarat Grammar. I've chosen 5 there. So maybe LT again. But again, that's awfully close. In Division 2, which gets smaller, this one, actually, MLC's got the fastest average time. There's won a regatta. LT's won 2 regattas. Loretto Ballarat I've got in there. I've got Furbank in there at a 3:58. MLC's rode 3:50 average. MGGS is there again. We might go MLC there. But that's another one. That'll be an absolutely ripper because those 3, you can just imagine the final. You can have MLC, LT, and MGGS in most of these finals. And they won't be taking any prisoners. I know one school doesn't like one of the others all that well, so that could be fun for you, Richard.
Makes it extra exciting, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be okay. Division 3, 12 entries. This was the one, you'll remember, Guy, where the 4ths came up and rode the 3rds for MGGS, so their average time's a bit higher. But again, you've got LT 357, MLC 403, Furbank 404. Furbank's actually stronger in this division than some of the others. Probably go for LT. MGGS is actually a 408, and Loretto Ballarat's the other one. And finally, and just quickly, 4th division, LT's got a whopping 9-second gap over the rest of the fleet. Again, MLC next. Then Furbank, which is snuck in there a little bit. So Furbank's certainly now the 4th crew, the 4th school after the big 3. And then you got MGC, and MGC would rank 5th, 6th, or 7th after the, in amongst those Ballarat schools. So MGC have proven themselves this season, certainly. I need a rest.
There we go. Inter's done. Man, head on. Yep.
I look like
National Party nominee, Mr. Alan Crute. National Party nominee, Mr. Alan Crute. Maybe you could be a teal, Alan.
No, I don't know. No, I don't think I'll be a teal.
The colour would suit you. It'd look good. It'd make your eyes pop.
I can hang around with Amelia Hayno and see if she's got any fashionable outfits.
We better not get into politics. We better not get into politics. Oh dear. That'll go one direction. It'll go very pear-shaped for all of us, I'm sure. We'll leave that one right alone. All right, Inter's done and dusted. Well, we're chugging through it, doing a great job. we are very fortunate again to have Rob Manning from Roman Repairs joining us on the couch. I was going to say, it's not on the couch, is it? We're on Zoom things, and it's all remote. But thanks for joining us, Rob. You've been sitting there patiently awaiting a chance to shed some words of wisdom.
Oh, it's just been nice listening to what everyone's been talking about, and definitely hear Richard talking about his commentary, which obviously for many, many years, listen to what you've been saying, and it's always been very enjoyable. So you do a great job.
I reckon we could have talked to Richard for the next 2 hours, couldn't we? But we might come back to him.
I'm going to save my voice for the weekend, guy.
Yeah.
Usually,
voice,
by this stage, Richard, Steph's brought you some sustenance.
Yes.
The dulcet tones of Richard, I think I've got a bit of a man crush just quietly. He's very, very nice to listen to, isn't he?
He may never get out of the tower now.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Anyway, moving right along. Rob, I do notice we have got a bit of a slight technical glitch potentially, so you may be sort of cutting in and out, but we'll give it a crack. What I'd love to hear from you, Rob, if I can. Firstly, like I asked Richard, give us a bit of a rundown on your rowing career / journey and where it all started.
It started with me. Dad rowed at Powerhouse, so I was fortunate enough when I was quite young to do a little bit of coxing when I was in primary school with Dad, and then started right through at school at Wesley, and then rowed for a number of years at Tyler. And then I got to the senior B, and I was sort of in between that heavyweight, lightweight, and I just found that challenging. So I got across to coaching, and I've coached almost everywhere, from Mercantile Senior B lightweights to Mercantile Club, to Banks, Genazzano First Aid, to Turret College, headed up the Lauriston program for a number of years, coached at Wesley, and then I spent 14 years at St. Kevin's and had a fantastic time there with Andrew Eaton and Paul McGann. And then when COVID hit, I decided that I needed a change, and I moved into boat repairs and haven't looked back. Love it. So it's a lot of fun.
So it's a great story because, people often say, if you can finish school and go and do what you love and turn it into a career, you've achieved that, haven't you? You've sort of ticked the box of the dream run.
Yeah. Well, the coaching, it's funny, I look at the coaching as being more of a hobby to some extent financially, but it took me long enough to find find the avenue of the repairs. I suppose over the years, all the network of people that I've connected with, I've been able to use that to my advantage, and the business is going strong. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. So.
Well, I think that's the sort of point. So, if you had have just rocked up and been a boat repairer, it probably wouldn't have got the traction. But because of the connections that you've made over years and years of at just about every club known to man, it certainly would assist in getting that business off the ground so quickly to the extent where it is now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not afraid, coming forward and saying hello to people and introducing myself. So, and at a regatta, if I see something's broke, something or damaged, I'll introduce myself. It's amazing how much work you get through that, those connections and being confident and talking to people. But the relationships that I make through the business is that's why I really love it. So, and everyone's sort of in it for the same reasons. There are some quirky people, as we know, but it makes sport a fun thing about sport. And everyone. It's funny.
It is just a great sport, though, isn't it? Because you do have that those personalities that do make it all interesting, and and keep it all going. And there's a lot of really passionate, long-term, good people out there that will be supportive and helpful and all of that, which is great to see. That's what I love about the sport, to be honest.
Yeah, well,
now,
this weekend,
Rob,
you
have mentioned many a club and many a coaching gig. You would therefore know from the ultimate inner sanctum of the schools leading up to this weekend, what would be the feeling or the vibe around the school clubs, the rowing clubs at this point with a few days to go?
A lot of my memories of being leading up to this weekend. a lot of it was relief that we've trained so hard for this weekend. That sort of, I suppose, as a coach, it gave you a lot of confidence and really looking forward to the weekend. So I found that you would, just trying how to put it in words, I'd be really happy and just try to bring the kids up and make sure they're excited about the weekend. I mean, the kids have got nerves. That's the hard thing. But it's about the coach having good leadership and showing that, and just really keeping them on point, which is the biggest thing.
And to embrace that too is that the nerves are part of it. It's part of the whole journey. And if you don't have nerves, if you're not a little bit anxious, there's something wrong with you, because you should, because you've done a damn lot of work, and it all comes down to a few minutes.
And that's what I like to 2K ergo. The anxiety of a 2K ergo is very similar to the feeling you get as you go into this regatta. It's a strange analogy, but I find that I used to tell my athletes, if you can lean in on those nerves, you're 5% better than if you're running up on the line with. So, but a lot of it's just relief that the season's almost over, and it's going to finish on a great high and a great regatta.
It then unfolds into another thing, and I remember this as clear as day. Is after my first Head of the River in 1984. Actually, is the following morning, the Sunday morning after the whole thing, is just this feeling of loss. Dare I say? It's like I don't have to go and train on Monday. It's like what am I going to do? But that's all manageable now, because the way the kids work, they go back into training the next week for the following season.
Yeah, true. I remember 84. We won the first day at Wesley. So I think the Sunday morning was more of a hangover than anything else. So
yeah. and I can tell you the date in 1984. It was the 7th of April too, Rob. The Saturday.
Oh,
I remember it clear as day because we won in a fourth crew.
Rob, to increase your business, Rob, you'd love junior fours to come back, wouldn't you? The argy bargy and the accidents, as one crosses one's lane and so on,
I'm surprised at how many broken oars there are and all those collisions.
Yeah.
But amazing how many broken oars you get. And then Croker too must love it.
Yeah.
busy buying new oars.
Strathcona left theirs out one summer in the sun. This was about 5-6 years ago, and they all broke at Head of Schoolgirls.
You don't want that, do you? All very exciting stuff, and thanks for joining us, Rob. We do have to crack on. We're 52 and a half minutes in. We don't want to be losing interest, so we've got the big ones to come, the seniors. The seniors. Here we go. The pressure's on now, Alan. The big guns. Where's this going to end up?
Well, one thing I did learn, guys, that when I actually got down and analysed all this stuff, it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Hey, before we do get into it, Alan, do we have any idea? I'm throwing you on the spot here. How many people get a Morongo medal each year?
Well, it's in the program. Last year's program.
And for those that don't know what the Morongo is, it's 3 schoolgirls.
You've got to have attended three Head of Schoolgirls during your career.
Yep.
And some girls, there were some Gippsland Grammar girls last season who turned up just for the Head of Schoolgirls to get their third one to get the Morongo. That's quite common.
Yeah.
Then there's some girls who've been rowing since year 7 who are probably entitled to 3.
Yeah. And what happened to the Shelford Shield, Alan? Remember the Shelford Shield?
Well, they made it a national thing. I mean, my best ideas are all in the waste paper basket. That was
welcome to my world.
Well, they've now got a Shelford thing at nationals for the schoolgirl double scull.
Schoolgirls double scull, championship.
Yeah,
which was awarded last year for the first time.
Yeah, that's right. So the Head of Schoolgirls Committee guy isn't going to do anything that I want them to do. I would probably.
Are we getting political again?
No, just slightly, but I'd be the closest thing to a rowing press there is. I can't even get a press pass for the bridge. So
yeah, well, I should. Yeah, I think you should be getting a press pass.
I think
you've got more information, and you provide.
Well, let's don't go there. It's a sad, sorry tale. Okay, let's start with Fours Division 1. You might remember, Richard, that Loretto Ballarat won Head of the Lake. And then, as you accurately said, they decided to win that under-19 eights event, which mucked them up for the one state title. Yeah. They probably should beat Ballarat Grammar, but Ballarat Grammar have been much better this year. There's only several seconds in that, but you'd have to go for LB in Division 1. In Division 2, Loretto Ballarat, not Loretto Ballarat, I beg your pardon, Ballarat Grammar's been the best boat all year. Clarendon's threatened occasionally, but and Genazzano in all these divisions are ranking about third or fourth, but you'd think Ballarat Grammar there. And then you get down to some really small fleets. So in Division 3, you've only got four competitors. LB finished 17 seconds ahead of BC at the Head of the Lake, but that margin shrank to 2 seconds at States. Does that mean anything? Maybe, maybe not, but LB would be favourites there. And finally, the last one, there'll only be gold and silver awarded because there's only 3 competitors. There's LB, Clarendon and Caulfield. There's some huge disparities in times there, and LB should win that too. So that goes your fours in about 35 seconds.
That was quick.
We don't muck around rowing it. They are Richard.
They'll be rowing it.
Yeah, well, similar to Head of the Lake, wasn't it? Loretto won 4 out of 5 categories there, so you'd expect substantially similar results here, I reckon.
Yeah, you would. They sometimes swap around, but yeah, you'd think so. Then you've got this really interesting double scull event where the Corowa girls with the C from New South Wales, Summers Hogan and Anastasia McFarlane, have appeared for the first time this season at a mainstream Victorian regatta. I did make a note. They did win Head of Schoolgirls 2 years ago together in 2003. They've come out the other day and beaten Corowa Glen Iris's pair of Whithouse and Tan by a couple of seconds. So that's going to be an absolute wonderful event between the C and the K, Richard. You're going to make sure you're doing that one as well.
It should be. I do love the way the Corowa club rowers do race, but they don't appear often. But when they do, they're always...
well, did you hear they invited me out for dinner the other day? Did you hear that?
Yes, I heard that on last week's episode, yes.
They're far more, what's the word? They look after me far better than my old school, actually. Anyway, let's continue. Single sculls, well, what a ripper this will be. Here we have Kafasis and Schlicht, who Constantina Kafasis usually would beat Sadie Schlicht. She doesn't always, but she usually would. So she's won gold at States. Sadie's won silver. Elizabeth Robson was 4th. And then Eliza Jenkins did very well, you might recall, Richard, in that under-21 race. She was 4th. The interesting one there is Grace Holton, who's Eliza's good mate. And you remember, guys, she was in that Cardinia, a quad that made the final last year. Yeah. So Grace has been rowing quads and mainly doubles. And I thought she was going to row doubles, but they've done a funny on me and put her into a single. So she would be handy as well. And then you've got Katie McNeil. Remember her from last year?
I remember that name.
Well, she's entered. She's only raced once or twice. She rode in a coxless quad at States with Gippsland. I don't know. I don't know what's happened there, but you've got to give her respect as well, don't you? My God. So I reckon that's going to be a marvellous race. And there's Ariel van der Poel, and there's quite a few girls there that are quite handy. So yeah, it should be good.
One of the things that are interesting, going from States to Head of the Schoolgirls, the 1,500 metre race is very different to a 2,000 metre race. So generally, if athletes can actually extend their output over, instead of so much as a race plan, trying the 300 metres becomes more of a sprint. And it's surprising how often it throws up those differences in results that you get over 2,000.
I reckon that's a ripper comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also very good training for the Los Angeles Olympics, where they'll be racing over 200 metres. So I'd like to say, if I say it enough times, I might believe it eventually. But anyway.
You might get a gig there, Richard.
I'll tell you what, we could have a whole chat about this distance thing, but let's because I've got a very strong.
We're almost done. So in quads, Gippsland Grammars won last year. Only beat Strathy the other day by 6 seconds, but I reckon they were cruising. I mean, Tafasi, who we know well, Guy.
Yes, we do.
And April Harrison are a class act at the back of that boat.
Yep.
And Canfield and Dehood are good too. And really, they haven't been beaten domestically all year. So you just have to go for them. Wrighton is totally unpredictable. They came out, remember, that Windaree Ballarat Regatta and went bang and beat everybody.
Yeah.
And haven't done a thing since. So, just wouldn't know. Albert Park College are a bit of a dark horse there because you know how technically good they are, and they've been sneaking up, and they were silver at States. So, I think that would be a good race. Looking forward to seeing Gippsland win again, but because they feed, they're better than your wife, Richard, in terms of feeding. Gippsland Grammar, I better introduce you to them.
Yeah.
What is that?
Their barbecues to be admired.
All I'll say is a good chance of a national medal. You'd think too, that Gippsland Grammar quad.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're really going for there. Hopefully, they can get a national medal. Okay, Divi 2. Well, this has been Albert Park for most of the period since Christmas. They've been winning easily. Of course, there was the second quad home the other day was that school that begins with F and doesn't come from Brighton.
Yeah.
And so, Fintner's come in 2 seconds in front of that nice Haileybury crew. Brighton were 5 seconds behind Fintner. Now, how many times in the last 10 years has Fintner beaten Brighton in the quad?
This would be it, wouldn't it?
Oh, it wouldn't be me. And, of course, that was that strange event where Strathcona didn't make the final. Look, Albert Park should win that. Divi 3, I think, is Strathy's. Strathy are miles in front. There is a funny thing, which I don't know whether they fixed this afternoon, but Wesley have got a quad entered in both Division 2 and 3. Same crew. And I suspect they entered Division 3 maybe because they've got an 8 and they're entitled to enter Division 3, but something's happening there. And one of those boats hasn't been, it's the same boat. One of the entries hasn't been scratched yet. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But Strathy should win that. And in Division 4, I think that's Strathy again. Yeah, I'll be stunned if Strathy doesn't win that.
With that Wesley crew, it might be the top 4 of the Inter 8 from Wesley. It might be the top 4 of it might be the top 4 from the Inter 8.
Right.
Johnson will fix up a quad sculpin in this week, and they've been training in it. So it could be 4 of the Wesley Inters.
Yeah, they've been rowing, Rob. They've been rowing in open for so long now. I've forgotten where they came from. You're probably right. They probably are inters. Because Wesley was struggling, weren't they? They only had one boat.
Yeah. Hey, can I just jump in there, Alan, while we're discussing such a thing? Rob, when you're obviously involved in school coaching and so forth, and with head of schoolgirls, as you can only enter in one race or one event, what's the thought processes, rightly or wrongly, behind coaching staff as to what to enter? Alan's talking about Ballarat crews moving quads to 4s and so forth, and because there's more of a chance of getting a medal and what have you. What are the processes that, from your experience, obviously like every school, where the decisions are made as to what boat classes to enter and what divisions?
depends. I suppose it depends on the school itself and what they want to achieve.
Yep.
Comes down to, I think a lot of it comes down to winning and trying to get a better result. Personally, I'd rather keep my crews together right through the season so they experience full season. But also could come down to injury. It could come down to, there's so many factors that occur that way. And also depending on the size of the actual program itself. So there's no real sort of one idea that will make people decide to go from one to the other. But I do sort of agree with going from the quad to sweep. They're probably kind of softer race to go into.
Yeah.
To get a better outcome. So
yeah,
it's like the Caulfield. Caulfield girls seconds going to 2 4s. So they're running open thirds and open fourth. So the open third four, they're not too bad over them in the morning. So they're not too bad. They'll be all right. So, but I found it interesting not going to the second 8 division, but putting them into 4. I think just to give the girls a bit more of an opportunity to be more competitive.
In other words, strategy to try and win.
To win or give the kid more opportunity to be more competitive, further up the field.
Makes sense. Sorry, Alan, I just wanted to jump in on that one while I have Rob
those
there.
Wesley girls look like seniors, but that's okay, doesn't it? They'll actually, if they row in Division 3, they probably will medal because they've got the times to medal. Anyway, do you want to do the big bangers now? Or are we done?
Yeah, let's go.
Done all the quads. Okay, we talked a lot because I actually listened back last week. We talked a lot about the 8s. Haven't changed my mind. I think St Catherine's will win. Wouldn't be surprised if MGGS got up, or MLC, or Geelong Grammar. Geelong Grammar would be a surprise because they haven't led the fleet all season. But you'd have to think St Cat's. They just haven't lost.
Sorry, I think Furbank for a dark horse to medal. I think Will did a great job with them. They were quite good.
Okay, I've got them in the top. I've got to be careful with Furbank, Rob. As you
connection there.
Well, Furbank. They blow the fleet away in one race, and then just when you get excited, it doesn't happen in the next one. But anyway, Division 2 should be a ripper as well. Geelong Grammar look good there. From MGGS again, looking second. St Catherine's have picked up their game and were third, and then Furbank are just behind. Loretto Toorak have been a bit up and down. We're a little better about a month and a half ago than they are now. But that should be a great Division 2. Geelong Grammar are really good. Have you noticed that, Richard? That they don't bother winning any heats in that division. They just sidle along until the final.
They're certainly been improving all season too. But it does show the interest in, I guess, the multi-race format of this regatta too, because you talk about Furbank getting the occasional race right. They've kind of got to get a semi-final right first to make the final and then get the final right too. So it's a tough ask when I think the 8s will only do, 3 races, maybe 4 over the course of the week. And some of the quads will do 5 races. So it's tough, and it's tough from a coaching perspective too to actually get the crews up for all those events in a row.
I think Furbank this time might actually do better in juniors and inters, but that's just a gut feel. But anyway. And in thirds, that looks like MLC Loretto match out. They've been swapping during the post-Christmas period. MLC won the Wendouree, Ballarat and Barwon Regattas, and Loretto Toorak won the Ngambia Regatta, but MLC weren't there that day. So you'd think MLC really. They won by 6 seconds the other day. But, I mean, that'll be close, but you've got to make a selection. And in the final one, that's also MLC and Loretto Toorak. Loretto Toorak got over MLC at States, but MLC beat Loretto Toorak at the Wendouree, Ballarat and Barwon. So that one I think will be really close. But you tend to go with the latest form because we're not playing they might be playing for sheep stations, but I'm not. I've got Squatter in the cupboard, but it hasn't been out for a long time. And that's about it. So I'm really looking forward to it. I like Friday because you get to see all the boats. You can get to wander around.
It's not as hectic as the other 2 days, is it? It's more relaxed vibe.
No. And if they stick that schedule, because Division 4 of juniors finishes at about 3:45, 4 o'clock, you can generally get away.
Yep.
But I'll have to be down there early because it's an 8 o'clock start. And first aid is first one off blocks. So.
Now, there is one person on this panel who, the only person on this panel who has competed in this event. Not only competed in this event, but won this event. Joe, take your mind back some, 35 odd years? Hang on. I'll go back a lot further, don't worry. And tell me, you will obviously have emotions with any of these events, especially with your kids participating. If you take yourself back, though, what were your memories ahead of the race day, so to speak?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can even remember that far back, Guy. To be honest, like rowing for me was a new thing at school. Like I come from coxing, from club coxing, so school needed someone to fill in, and I think I was the best fit for our four, a sweep or four. We it was wooden oar days, I think, as well.
Yep. Probably was. At Finton it would have been probably wooden boat days still at Finton.
Were you really excited after the event? I mean, did you realise the importance of the?
Did, and I think we were talking about it a month or two ago. Like having that head of the Schoolgirls medal is just such a huge achievement, and it. Against some of the other big regattas as well, like to say that you've got a head of Schoolgirls medal is pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you'll be feeling their nerves as well. I think that's the way it goes. I mean, we were talking before. The parents do get a bit antsy beforehand, don't they? Hey, while we still have Richard, not going to let you off the hook just yet. Alan did tell me on the phone that he does notice you're walking around with piles of notes and stuff. That's probably an embellishment of the story, but you do a bit of research before you go into the tower, don't you? I mean, you can't know all of this stuff off the top of your head each race day, or?
No. Look, yes, I do. I try to at least. I mean, unfortunately, as you mentioned last week, this is a hobby, not a profession. So I don't get to spend my entire week studying the form before we go to race this weekend. But you certainly try and look at the draws and see who the crews are and understand who's who and get as much detail as you can. Alan's website is a fantastic resource for especially regattas like this, where it's all schoolgirls racing. So that will provide me with lots of information as well. And then there's just what you've observed, I guess, at regattas along the way. I try and keep results from previous this season nearby, and also from last year's head of the Schoolgirls, because I often see some patterns emerging of crews who've done well one year, then continuing through. There's a bit of information you try and carry around, but the trick is sort of knowing when, or hopefully find the right moment to actually use that. You know a lot of useless things which are only useful in context at a very narrow moment, and you don't always pick the right time to do it. But we try.
That special call that you've kept up your sleeve for that one particular moment that all of a sudden appears, you think it's fantastic, and then 2 minutes later it's gone forever.
Well,
exactly
Richard,
right,
if that Fintoner's second quad wins, you'll have to give if you're commentating, you have to give Joe a bit of a shout out. And
the screaming parents below, yes, I'll make sure to do that. Don't worry.
Alan will owe Joe 10 cents too, I think. Is that?
Well, I remember when Corowa broke their 20-odd year drought 3 years ago. I mean, I was on the bridge with one of the parents, and it was very emotional, actually, because we'd been trying for years and years to win one. And if Finton had got up and won one, they'd be beside themselves.
Oh, they'd absolutely beside themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one I recall well too, Alan, which I think you told me, that was 2022 when Strathcona won the quad for the first time. I'm sure I spoke to you that Sunday morning, and you said, Wrighton will do well, but watch out for Strathcona. And by the way, they've never won this event. So fortunately, when the crews came down and they were well in front, I think Wrighton had an issue at the start, but Strathcona were leading, and that was their first win in, what was that, 35 years, I think, to win that title. So that was good.
Well, they hadn't been rowing for that long, but I mean, they'd been beaten up by Wrighton for a long time, and that meant a lot to that school because it, and also they had their best rower ever, Chloe Amling, who went on to row for Australia in maybe under 19s or under 21s or something, and she was a scallywag, so I liked her. She's the only Strathcona girl to ever come up and say, "Alan, I'm so and so. Yeah, I want to introduce you to my crew." So I thought that was good value. I like that crew after that. I sort of remember them very well.
Oh, excellent. Now, we've been going for an hour and a quarter,
right,
and there are still people long suffering that are tuned in and still listening to, and not to mention those that will tune in and watch it later, of course. So
take the tie off.
Yep, exactly. I'm looking forward to taking the tie off. I do have actually
40 degrees in the loft.
Just a comment to you there, Rob, is I will be having a chat on a podcast tomorrow night. It won't be released tomorrow night, with an alumni of yours who is probably one of Wesley's greatest athletes to have been produced. The sport is not quite rowing. You may pick it if I give away too much, so I don't want to give away too much. But I'm looking very much forward to having a chat with her. And she does have a son who will be competing in this weekend's Scotch Mercs Regatta. You broke up after the E bit, but exactly who it is.
Yeah, I know exactly
of course, you know who it is. Don't give it away. This is, if I'm excited having Richard on, I'll be wearing a nappy when I have her on. I mean, because I'm going to wee myself. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that would be one worth listening to, that's for sure. But I'll be very interested to have a chat to her. I could go on for hours. Anyway, not doing promos of my next show. We're talking about this one. We're talking about Head of Schoolgirls. So what we should do on that note is wind it all up and wish everyone the best of luck for the pending days ahead. Best of luck to all you guys who are involved and those who will be working hard, especially Richard will be working extremely hard, Alan who will be flat out, no doubt, and Joe who will be a pile of stress and flat out keeping the parents entertained. Best of luck to you guys. To the parents, don't make the fundamental mistake I did each year I was down there, went out a bit too hard on the Friday, and you got to get through the rest of the weekend, but that's all part of the fun. And, you live and learn, or you just live and you never learn. But let's wind it up here. I look forward to the next time we catch up, Alan and Joe, to discuss what might have happened. We won't be doing a review after this weekend because I'll be lied up in a hospital bed.
You'll be having a procedure.
Having a new bionic hip added in to match my other one. So I'll be out of action for a couple of days come Monday. But I'm looking forward to following everything that happens on the weekend. Thanks, Joe and Alan, especially for all of the reviews we've done during the season. It seems to have just flown by when it was only yesterday we first started. But gee, these seasons do go quick. They don't feel like it when you're in the middle of them. But anyway, on that note, let's leave it.
Right.
Let's say goodbye, everyone, and we will see you around. And have a good Head of Schoolgirls.
See you on the sunny side.